So we got on scene, as you could see towards the end of the video. We weren't told PD was going to be there, but there was a couple of cars. And as we arrived, there was an officer with his flashlight looking for a house, and which we made contact with. And I told him, I was like, you know where it's at? And he goes, no, I don't. And so I looked at the phone where we get all our information, and we confirmed the address, which we found. We parked, we got off, we got our equipment, and a small old house that we're about to enter, and there's cars in the way, and there's some debris and some item or objects in the way. And FD at that point has arrived. My partner's in the front walking in, and FD is helping her, remove these stuff, clear a path so when we come back out. So we walk into a small house, and family members are there in the living room. We're walking down a small, narrow hallway towards the end, and my partner's still in the front, and she gives that look to me, and I was like, oh, like, I didn't think it was a legit call, right? Because sometimes it comes out as cardiac arrest, and turns out it's not, right? And especially at this time, like, it's kind of rare, to have one. And so I was like, it's legit, and she goes, yeah. I was like, oh shit, okay, let me squeeze in. I went between the wall and the stretcher. It's a very small place. So I go in, check in, do my assessment, and as I walk in, there's like 2-3 family members to the right side of the room, and right next to it, like what looks like a king size in a very small room. There's an elderly man on the floor, supine, eyes open, and there's a female officer doing compressions, and there's a family member giving mouth to mouth to, their dad. And which I told him, hey man, you don't have to do that. At this point, officer stops compressing. I kneel down, check for pulses just to make sure we actually do have. There's no pulse to a carotid and to the radio. FD at this point takes over. Family member leaves. FD takes over. It's now standing to my left, and say, hey, dude, start doing compressions. So they start doing compressions. It's an elderly male, 81 years old. He's approximately about 250 pounds, maybe. He's probably about, I'll say 5'10", maybe. So it's a big patient stuff. Compressions are being performed. At this point, my partner, I turn around. The doorway's behind me, so I turn around. Because I'm looking at the stretcher, I'm looking at the patient, I'm looking at the room, and so I made a decision at that point to, you know what, dude, I think it's best if we just extract from this room, going to the unit, which our unit is a big unit, it's a box unit, so there could be multiple people at different angles at a patient, and I think we could do better, right? So this is my thought process at the time. So I told him, my partner's like, what do you need? She's grabbing the bag to hand it to me. I was like, nah, man, bring the stretcher close. Let's just move the patient to the stretcher and we'll rush him out. And so at this point, there's 3 FD guys in the room with me. One at the feet, one next to my right side by the head, and then the one doing compressions on the left side of the body of the patient. And I get up, I look, my partner's running towards the truck, getting a backboard, and I'm kind of still assessing. I was like, well, we could just put a sheet and just carry him, but whatever. They wanted to do a backboard. They got a backboard. I just told FD guys, hey, just put a T-band around the pelvis, just enough to stabilize him to the stretcher. The stretcher was maybe 5 feet away, so we didn't have to go the full fucking, SMR thing, whatever. But they did 2. One guy struggled by the pelvis region. Since another FD guy was compressing, he was trying to go under, between them to secure it, whatever. It took a little while, a couple of seconds. And in those times, you're talking about seconds, feel like it's going for minutes. It's weird, right? So they finally got it. They take care of that part. They carry the patient out. I help them from the doorway onto the stretcher. We finally get the patient onto the stretcher. We secure him. Stretcher is lifted up. There's a firefighter still doing compression as best as they can, which is better than nothing. There was probably maybe like 5 to 6 seconds interruptions and compressions as we got him out. It was as soon as we got out of the house, it was uneven surfaces, uneven cements. I mean, name it, right? So you gotta be careful. So at that point, that interval between the doorway to the unit, there was no compressions, which is probably maybe the max 10 seconds. We rushed him in the unit. At this point, I see rescue, supervisor rescue, who's also paramedic. So, which this helps me, right? Because now there's 2 paramedics on the scene. I don't have to worry about everything, right? I could do a half of the portion of the workload, and he could take care of the rest, and everybody else could help us, as much as they can, right? Based on scope of practice or knowledge and experience. So at this point, now I'm sitting on a captain's chair. The patient's in the unit. There's about 5 of us in total, 6 of us, right? I think there was like 3 FD guys, my partner, and then the supervisor. And there's a FD guy doing compressions on the left side of the patient. My partner's to my left side, by the head, and then if I remember correctly, I think there was 2 FD guys by the feet. And then the supervisor was next to the FD guy doing the compressions, working in on IV stuff, like gathering all the stuff from the bag, the jump bag and stuff. My partner asked me, he's like, hey, where's the BVM? Which I placed the BVM under the head of the stretcher, and which we lifted up a little bit, got the BVM out. She's taking care of the bagging, the FD guy compressing, supervisor's working on IV. The pads are already on the patient, which I placed them inside the house. So I'm connecting the pads to the monitor. The monitor is to my right side on the cabinet, and stop compressing. I checked for rhythm, and we're working assistantly. I told them to continue compressions. Compressions continue. Supervisor working in IV, and my partner's bagging. And at this point, I confirm with my supervisor, right? Because we haven't talked yet. I say, hey, you working in IV? He goes, yeah, all right, I'm going to work on intubation. So I get up to go get the bag, the jump bag that's by the supervisor towards the end of the bench. One of the firefighters helps me, hands me over the bag. I bring the bag towards me. I'm sitting down. The bag's between the stretcher and the cabinets, and I'm there grabbing my stuff. I choose to go with the 7.5. Usually adult males are 7.5, which has to do with based on height, right? Generally, anybody above 6 is usually about an 8 and above. Anybody less than 5'5", 5'6" is either 6.5. So usually adult females are between 6.5, and then kids are less than 6, right? So generally 7.5. I went with 7.5. I'm getting it right. I opened the ET tube. I get a 10 ml syringe. I check the cuff. The cuff is working. I get some lube. I lube up the cuff, and then I leave the syringe connected to the tube. And then I get my blade. I go with a Mac 3, and so I double check, right? I have a habit of double checking myself, right? Making sure I don't make any mistakes. I was like, I got everything. Why am I missing something? And so I noticed that the tube doesn't have a stylet. And so I go back into the jump bag thinking maybe, we have some loose stylets and stuff, which we don't. So from there, I look at all the other tubes, and all the tubes have stylets, and this one does not. And this is a brand new sealed tube. And it happens sometimes, equipment that comes from the manufacturer, there's an error somewhere that happens, and so there's an error here. So I get an 8.0 tube. I open it up, steal the stylet off it, connect it, or insert it into the tube, and I, make a J out of the tube, which would be, it helps me out for intubation. especially where I'm at, right? The patient's sitting low. I'm tall. I'm a tall dude, so it helps me with that angle, right? With the letter J of the tube, right? Or the tube shape of the letter J. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm ready to go. My partner asked me, he's like, "You ready?" He's like, "Yeah." And at this point, FT's alternating personnel, right? They're taking turns compressions. And FD guy's kind of waiting on me. He's like, "No, man." I told, like, you can continue compressing. I can intubate while you compress, which I think every paramedic should be able to. Which I did, right? I was able to intubate. It was an easy intubation. I saw the vocal cords, and I inserted it, and or the opening of the vocals, and I inserted it. And yeah, I take out the stylet. I connect the bag, which now the FD guy. Now there's an FD guy next to me, and my partner goes around towards around the unit to be around the feet area. FD guy helps me connect the bagging because I'm holding on the tube. He's kind of helping me, and compression's still going. I believe the IV's already established. My partner did already get epi ready, which we have to break the vials, the 1 in 1, convert it to 1 in 10s. So she already did that, and so he pushes it, and I'm over here working in a tube. Right, I asked him to secure it, or not secure it. My bad. To confirm lung sounds, which I could hear right as I'm squeezing the bag. I could hear right that I'm in right. It has a certain sound to it, but we gotta double check, right? Always double check our work. And so he confirms. I already kind of had an idea that I had a feeling I was already too deep, right? I did go deeper than what expected, or what I was what you should not expected, but what I should be, right? But he says I was good on the left side, right? And with intubation, you gotta worry about the left side being neglected, right? Because when you insert too deep, you're always gonna go right stem intubation because of the anatomy of the lungs. And so, but he says I was present on the left, so now we have bilateral lung sounds. So I secure the tube towards the patient. I get the end-tidal sensor, and I'm connecting it to the tube, then to the monitor. FD guys, I told the guy, "Hey, can you help me out? Just squeeze every 6 seconds." And then I told the guy compressing, because he stopped. I was like, "No, dude, that's continuous 100 compressions or more whenever time we have a tube." It's like, "All right, cool, whatever," right? So they're taking care of that. I'm connecting to the monitor. I'm changing the monitor settings, and so I could see the end-tidal. And it takes a little while where it has to calibrate, pick it up and all that shit. So at this point, I look over. I'm assessing. Okay, what have we done? We have IV, epi in, working asystole. Compressions are good. Bagging's good. Tube secured. We're just waiting on this. Patient, still pulseless. They're hanging. They have 1,000 ml of NS hanging. I told them, "Hey, just continue bolusing, taking care of the H's, right? H's and T's," and which they did, right? The supervisor established a 20 gauge to the left AC, which I'm glad he did, right? Because then we would have to do IO, and we didn't have IO, right? So we had no other choice. And so at that point, my partner's working on glucose. She goes, "Hey, I'm gonna get a glucose," which the only history I got was a patient was diabetic, possibly hypertension, cholesterol. The wife, obviously in the state, of what's happening. I mean, I don't expect her to know it all, right? So, so from that point, I'm waiting for the sensor to kick in. Supervisor is "Hey, you want to give sodium bicarb?" I was like, "But yeah, let's get it ready," because at this point, patient is already. We started working the patient about 10 minutes. The patient, guessing about 15 total downtime from when it happened to by the time we arrived. So it's about give it a start. It's about 15 minutes, and so our protocol states, at 20 minutes, sodium bicarb could be considered. So at this point, this is where I understand the physiology of things, right? So he's diabetic, right? More than likely acidic, right? Sugar did come back to 232, which is already considered DKA, right? At 200 and above, it's considered DKA, which, you know, a buildup of acid, right? He's been down for 15 minutes or so. Buildup of acid is present, so then sodium bicarb would help, right? Alkaline the body. And then we're also giving fluids, which are also going to help, right, with that. And that's when the sensor kicked in. We're at 58. ETCO2 is at 58. So normal is between 35 or 45. Obviously, he's acidic, right? And ETCO2 is acid in the lungs. And then PaCO2 is acid in the blood. And they tend to be about 10 in difference. So if you have an ETCO2 of 45, like in this case 58, more likely PaCO2, acid in the blood, will be at 68. So he's for sure, his pH is for sure below, you know, 7.35, right? Which is, or 7.4 is the middle. For sure, he's below that, right? And so I was like, yeah, man, let's pop it, right? 50 millicubes of sodium bicarb, which they did. They continued bolusing. And a couple of seconds later, reassess. I look at the monitor, and now I'm having an organized rhythm, and I'm thinking PEA, right? Because we went from asystole, and, you know, obviously it could be PEA. So, all right, we got rhythm change. Let's check, you know, whatever. Let's check for a pulse. Let's check whatever we have to do, right? And so the patient, FD stops compressing on the patient, and when I look at the patient, and he's shirtless, I see the quivering of the chest, which obviously is the heart, right? And I was like, oh, that's the epi, right? The epi's, you know, the adrenaline jump. And then one of the FD guys, like, holy shit, like, I've never seen that before. I was like, yeah, me neither, man. I've never seen, you know, in that sense, what I'm seeing. And so I checked for a carotid, and I'm feeling a carotid. I'm checking on the right side, and there's carotid. And I told one of the FD guys, I was like, hey, man, check the radio. He goes, yeah, we have a pulse. So now we have a pulse. ROSC. After one epi, sodium bicarb compressions and bagging. And I checked for patient's response. Pupils are still dilated, not responding. And but we have a pulse, right? So we get our BP going. One of the FD guys, well, I think my partner jumped over on the right side of the patient and put a BP cuff, whatever. And yeah, we got our first. We have a heart rate of 149, which looks like sinus tach so far on the monitor. And then blood pressure, the first one was like 159 over something. ETCO2, you know, I'm managing it with the bagging. I'm trying to bring it down. And then, so yeah. So at that point, where I'm double checking, right? Okay, what else do I need to do, right? Bagging's good. We secured it. ETCO2, I'm working on it. We got IV going. Fluids are flowing. Patient's unresponsive. I say, hey guys, I told FD guys, can you help me out? You know, kind of secure him. You know, let's readjust him because he was a little off center from the stretcher. They did, right? They helped me out. And supervisor like, hey, let's do a 12. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm over here managing the CO2, right? I'm trying to bring it down. So now we're doing every 6 seconds. I'm trying to do at least 4 or 5 seconds, right? Trying to take out the CO2 in the lungs. And so we do a 12. And after that, you know, we're ready to go. I get the 12 as I'm bagging. One of the guys, I'm assuming the lieutenant of the crew, is like, hey, you need one of my guys? I was like, yeah, man, just in case. So one of the guys stayed behind, and I'm checking the 12, and there's nothing obvious. You could tell in the 12 that he has had cardiac issues, right? It's not the perfect 12, but nothing STEMI, nothing like that. Not even a bundled branch block or anything like that present. And so yeah, just bagging the patient. Heart rate starts dropping down within normal limits, kind of like in the 109s now. Blood pressure's taken automatically every 5 minutes. Blood pressure's dropping too, to like 140s, 130s. Patient's still unresponsive. And that was pretty much it, man. There was an FD guy, and I was super, like, I get excited about these, like, when these things go well, right? Everything goes smooth. And I was like, hey man, good job, thanks for the help. You know, we did fucking great. You know, and you know, he was happy too, and it's a great moment, right? And it was a great moment for three different agencies working together who has never worked before together, and that's what makes it amazing, right? If we all did our job and we all know what we're doing, then you know there's no need for communication. There's no loss in translation of things along the way, right? We all do our part, and you know, hats off to FD and hats off to police officers, or at least the female officer who was there compressing. And so it was about, we went lights and sirens. I told my partner, you know, fast but steady and safe. And I think we're maybe out by like 5-6. We're about 5-6 minutes away from the hospital, which we're going to a dedicated cardiac hospital, a heart hospital. And I told my partner to tell dispatch to call, you know, let them know, because you know I was busy bagging and you know other things, making sure everything's okay. Patient never became unresponsive, but he never patient never became responsive, but he also never lost his pulse ever again, or at least in that moment. And everything was good. We got to the hospital. We transferred care. Still, pulse was present. They put a vent. They put a vent on the patient, which at the time I forgot, but I actually had a vent in the unit. And it wasn't until like 2 calls later after this call I was like, man, I should have popped the vent, you know. But completely forgot that I had one. And but other than that, I mean, got the job done. Even the medical staff, the doctor too, was like, what? 1 epi and 1 sodium bicarb? You got a pulse? I was like, yeah, dude. Like, which is, you know, usually it's not the case, right? Like, you have to do multiple rounds, right? So that was cool. That was super cool, right? Because effective compressions, which the FD guys did amazing. I didn't have to coach them on that. Got the bagging, NS, and understanding the physiology, right? Like, well, patient's acidic, right? He has diabetes, high sugar. He's been down for 15 minutes. That's a lot of acid buildup. Try to alkaline him, right? NS is flowing, sodium bicarb's coming in. I'm managing the CO2 with the bagging, understanding that PaCO2 is higher than what the EtCO2 is reporting. So understanding all these helps, right? And understanding physiology then helps you, you know, build a better cure or treatment, a better treatment for the patient, right? And so that was pretty much the call. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. I might just continue doing this type of videos now, right? Recording the scene or responding to the scene, and then, you know, talking about the call after the hand. Any questions, anything like that, leave comments, and I'll respond to you guys as soon as I can. But anyways, thanks again, guys. See you guys later.